Rates of literacy in the United States depend on which of the various definitions of literacy is used. Governments may label as literate those individuals who can read a couple of thousand simple words they learned by sight in the first 4 grades in school. Other sources may term such individuals functionally illiterate if they are unable to use basic sources of written information like warning labels and driving directions. The World Factbook prepared by the CIA describes the definition of literacy in most countries as age 15 and over can read and write. The literacy rates are not completely measurable. Studies National Assessment of Adult Literacy the USDTH Micron-Department of Education, Institute of Education Sciences has conducted large-scale assessment of adult proficiency in 1992 and 2003 using a common methodology from which trends could be measured. The study measures prose, document, and quantitative skills, and 19,000 subjects participated in the 2003 survey. There was no significant change in prose or document skills and a slight increase in quantitative attributes. As in 2008, roughly 15% of the sample could function at the highest levels in all 3 categories. Roughly 50% were at either basic or below basic levels of proficiency in all 3 categories. The study identifies a class of adults who, although not meeting criteria for functional illiteracy, face reduced job opportunities and life prospects due to inadequate literacy levels relative to the requirements of contemporary society. The study, the most comprehensive study of literacy ever commissioned by the U.S. government, was released in April 2002 and reapplied in 2003, giving trend data. It involved lengthy interviews of over 90,700 adults statistically balanced for age, gender, ethnicity, education level, and location in 12 states across the U.S. and was designed to represent the U.S. population as a whole. This government study showed that 21% to 23% of adult Americans were not able to locate information in text, could not make low-level inferences using printed materials, and were unable to integrate easily identifiable pieces of information. Further, this study showed that 41% to 44% of U.S. adults in the lowest level on the literacy scale were living in poverty. A follow-up study by the same group of researchers using a smaller database was released in 2006 that showed some upward movement of low end in U.S. adult literacy levels and a decline in the full proficiency group. Thus, if this bottom quintile of the study is equated with the functionally illiterate, and these are then removed from those classified as literate, then the resultant literacy rate for the United States would be at most 65 to 85% depending on where in the basic, minimal competence quintile one sets the cutoff. A 15% figure for full literacy, equivalent to a university undergraduate level, is consistent with the notion that the average American reads at a 7th or 8th grade level, which is also consistent with recommendations, guidelines, and norms of readability from education directions, product information, and popular fiction. CIA Factbook The U.S. Central Intelligence Agency's World Factbook published that 97.9% of persons aged 15 and over had completed 5 or more years of schooling in 1991. Central Connecticut State University Between 2005 and 2009, Dr. Jack Miller of the Central Connecticut State University conducted annual studies aimed at identifying America's most literate cities drawing from a variety of available data resources. The America Unregistered Trademark's Most Literate Cities study ranks the largest cities in the United States. This study focuses on 6 key indicators of literacy: newspaper circulation, number of bookstores, library resources, periodical publishing resources, educational attainment, and Internet resources. Methodological issues. Jonathan Kozol, in his book Illiterate America, suggests that the very high figures of literacy may be due to poor methodology. The Census Bureau reported literacy rates of 86% based on personal interviews of a relatively small portion of the population and on written responses to Census Bureau mailings. They also considered individuals literate if they simply stated that they could read and write, and made the assumption that anyone with a 5th grade education had at least an 80% chance of being literate. Kozol notes that, in addition to these weaknesses, the reliance on written forms would have obviously excluded many individuals who did not have a literate family member to fill out the form for them. Finally, he suggests that because illiterate people are likely to be unemployed and may not have telephones or permanent addresses, the Census Bureau would have been unlikely to find them. Effect of immigration: it has been estimated that areas in the United States with higher immigrant populations have the lowest literacy rates in the country. References. External links: National Assessment of Adult Literacy, Pro-Literacy.